Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to take a look at Jupiter's upcoming entrance into the sign of Cancer once again. We've been spending a few days this week taking a look at this upcoming ingress. Today we're going to do so from the standpoint of your horoscope. So this will be for all 12 signs. I've also done something a little different today. I sat and meditated with each sign prior to jotting down a few notes, as I always do. But this time, I waited until a kind of image popped up with respect to Jupiter's house placement for all 12 signs. So I'll tell you what you might expect given the themes and topics of the house that Jupiter's about to move into in your birth chart. But I will also give you, a kind of a meditative image to work with as well. One that might be fruitful in terms of generating some of your own meditations or contemplations of this ingress as well. So I'm also curious to hear, and I'll ask you again to tell me what images come up for you as you're starting to sit with this transit that is now fast approaching. So anyway, that's our agenda for today. Before I get into it, as always, remember to like and subscribe. It's my hope that this channel is a place for your daily spiritual practice of astrology. If that's the case and you haven't yet subscribed, it helps us grow a ton. We really appreciate it. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. Go over to the website, click on events page. We have a summer solstice gathering coming up on June 21st from 6 to 8:30 p.m. I hope that you can make it. It's free to attend, facilitated by your generosity of our support of our Kickstarter every year. So RSVP, so we know you're coming. That's the 21st from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Grapevine Collective in Minneapolis. And then go to speaker series. And you will see that we are in the midst of our summer speaker series, June 7th, 8th, and 15th. We have 3 speakers. These are all free. Again, we're able to pay our speakers and make these all free thanks to the Kickstarter. So we really appreciate that. Speakers do too. Good talks. If you can't make it live, once you register, you get the link to attend, but also the recording afterward. And then go to live talks. You'll see that in June on the 19th, I'm giving a talk on Uranus in Gemini, trining Pluto in Aquarius, called When New Objects Appear in the Sky. And this is going to be a really fun exploration of another major outer planetary configuration that's coming along. So those things in mind, the last thing to promote for the day is our first year course that begins June 22nd. Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic is our first year program in Hellenistic astrology. It is not too late to join. In fact, we have a lot of people who are joining every week still. So when you go down to the bottom, you'll see the different options for enrollment, and be sure you check out the need-based option. If you are someone who would like to take the course but you need a little help to make it happen, that gives you a sliding scale within which to work flexibly with your budget and your finances so that you're not, we don't want people living outside their means. We think the course should be an investment, but it should also match each person's situation. That's a real strong belief of ours. And so we have provided this for 15 years now. We're really proud of that. And we also are able to do that thanks to everyone supporting the channel every year. It really helps everything that we do. So anyway, on that note, hope to see some of you in class soon. At the end of today's video, there's a 12-minute informational video about the course that's tagged on to the end of today's content. So if you want to learn more, just stick around after I sign off and you'll hear me tell you everything the program includes. All right, well, we are coming up on the entrance of Jupiter into Cancer. I mentioned at the start of this week, the transits for the week are not super spectacular. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, and we're also going to be talking about the upcoming Venus-Pluto square. The 9th, next Monday, is a very dynamic day of astrology. So we'll be spending some time sort of prepping ourselves for the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction on Sunday and prepping ourselves for Monday's astrology tomorrow. Today, we're going to wrap up our coverage of Jupiter in Cancer by doing some whole sign horoscopes. So the way that I recommend listening to these is for your rising sign. The reason for that is that the rising sign, in Hellenistic astrology, we use whole sign houses. And the rising sign, all horoscopes are written in rising sign format, which means if you listen for your rising sign rather than your sun or moon sign, you're going to get the transit as it is actually located in your natal birth chart, on your natal chart. So Jupiter in Cancer, you listen to your rising sign horoscope, that will correspond to the actual house position of its transit in your chart right now. Anyway, I say that every time just because there's usually questions. Maybe people are new or haven't heard me do horoscopes on the channel before. So that's what I recommend. Of course, you could listen to anything. But let's refresh ourselves briefly. The transit is Monday. Jupiter enters Cancer on June 9th. I have this set for Wednesday because I was going through all 12. So don't really pay too much attention to that. Actually, I can just back it up 2 days here. Let's just go to Monday. Actually, we'll have to go forward a little bit on Monday. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you, I kind of had fun with this one, and I thought, why don't I generate something of a sacred image? Almost like if you've ever played with the Sabian symbols before, I feel like I was kind of giving myself a Sabian symbol exercise, where with the entrance of Jupiter into Cancer for each whole sign horoscope, I came up with an image through sitting and just meditating on the house position. I'd close my eyes, I'd sit there and wait for something to form as I sort of contemplated the house position. So take from this what you will. I will give you the image for each sign, and then I'll tell you how I think the image serves as an interesting, at least starting point for reflecting on the house placement. All right, so let's get into it. With Aries, you have Jupiter in Gemini, you have Jupiter entering Cancer on Monday to spend a whole year there in your 4th house. Now, when I thought about this, the image that came to my mind was an inner sanctum. And when I think about an inner sanctum, I'm really thinking about some of the temples that I visited in India. And it was as though there's a kind of external level or layer to certain temples. And then as you go further and deeper into the temple, there comes a point where you get into something like the womb space of the temple itself. This inner, quieter, deeper, more internal space of worship or of meditation. So the inner sanctum to me is a beautiful image that came to mind when I was sitting with Jupiter in Cancer in your 4th house as an Aries. Here's the place that refers to the private sphere of life, the home, the family, the roots that you grew up with, ancestral karma, familial karma, but also just the inner space of the heart and the inner space of your private thoughts. There's an inner space that is maybe there's an invitation to cultivate, develop, love, nurture, and tap into a deeper, more interior inner sanctum in your life this year. And that could happen through many of the 4th house topics like home or family, living environment, land, parents, ancestral karma. But more than anything, I just love that image of a deep, like candlelit inner sanctum, like the inner womb space of a very elaborate temple that gets progressively quieter and more reflective the deeper you go into it. So Aries, I hope that you'll take something good from that image. We've done several other versions of horoscopes and covered them in so many different ways. So I would also recommend, if you want like a slightly different take and you haven't heard the earlier horoscopes we did, if you go back to the horoscopes that we did for the month of June, just recently, you could get Alex and Dana's take on these as well. So if people are listening to this and like, oh, this is kind of spacey or new agey, go back and listen to those. Those are much more like topical. I wanted this one to be, I don't know, a little bit more contemplative, to engage our imagination a little bit more. So anyway, we'll move on. Taurus. The image that came to my mind with Jupiter entering Cancer in your 3rd house, a place that was called Goddess, and that was called the Joy of the Moon, and that was associated with something like your local village, your local community, but was also associated with the mind and the drawing forth of what is within us, what is more private or unseen, out into the world through things like communication or writing or learning or speaking or showing off our skills and abilities. Jupiter in Cancer in the 3rd house for Tauruses makes me think about the possibility of drawing sustenance from new wells. There are new places that are rich to be mined within yourself and to bring something out. As someone who's a Taurus rising, I think about new modes of communication, new things that I might be learning from, new subjects that might ignite a real passion, interest to study, new forms of communication or expression, maybe even new ways of creating content for me as a content provider. But I have this image of Tauruses kind of drawing beautiful new things up that you'll express or that you'll bring out into the immediate environment around you from a new place, a new source of nourishment and creativity that will color your local environment, your immediate sphere, but may also flow out through how you communicate or express yourself. For Geminis, the image that came to me as I was meditating on this was rain falling on a lush garden. Like I'm thinking of almost like a garden that we have in our backyard. It's a community herbal medicine garden that we've made. We host free events in the community, by the way. You can check out Ashley's website, skyhouseherbs.com, for free gatherings that we host throughout the summer. You can also harvest free medicine. So if you're in Minneapolis, check that out. But for Geminis, I'm thinking about this image of the rain. It's been raining a lot here in Minnesota, so maybe that's why it was on my mind. It was just this image of the rain falling on a garden that's going to grow plants that you can eat, like tomatoes or cucumbers or kale, lettuce, and also herbs that you can take as medicine, and also flowers that are fragrant and maybe have medicinal value. I just saw a picture of a garden that provides for so many different needs, for so many different things, and it being watered and being nurtured so that things will grow. So for Geminis, I'd be like, wow, your garden is going to grow this year. And that could have something to do with the topics like money, finances, business, assets, resources, any kind of assets or resources. But the image I liked was that of like a nice spring rain on a lush garden. So Geminis, I love that for you. I think this is a year where there may be a real theme of abundance. I certainly hope that that's the case. So Cancer, the image that came to me here is that of a pregnant woman. Now, I have to say, when this came to me, and my wife is a Cancer rising, I was like, all right, hold the phone. Let's pause on that. But then I was like, no, this is a metaphor. It's an image that I think we can work with regardless of gender, sex, literal pregnancy or not. When I saw, in my head was a woman just kind of fondly, like, in the pictures, like the pregnancy pictures, just kind of fondly looking at her belly, is big and full. And I was like, wow. Now take that as a metaphor, take that as an image for Cancers being pregnant with meaning, Cancers being pregnant with personal growth, Cancers being pregnant with new opportunities for your work or your creativity or your relationships. I see a creative fullness coming through Cancers. And maybe also, is there ever a time, I mean, I'm just thinking of my wife's 2 pregnancies, where the importance of being cared for yourself is there. One of the things I loved about the women in our yoga community, we owned a yoga studio for a long time, and the women in that community, when Ashley was pregnant, and really when any woman in the community was pregnant, were just so caring and adoring of the pregnant woman. Like, now it's our turn to care for you because you're caring for a life inside of you. So we've got your back. It was kind of that thing. And I think there was a lot of wonderful women in that community too, that were a part of making that, giving Ashley that kind of experience. But we should really treat each other that way when we're in new phases of life, and we're carrying forth the seeds of new ideas. It's almost like, wow, what a sacred thing to be around you right now. You're so creatively full of a new phase of life. How can I care for you? But Cancers, it's not always easy to step out of the caring position into the receiving position. I wonder if Jupiter this year is here to take care of you. But also just that image of pregnant with creativity, pregnant with meaning. Take it literally if you want, but I'm going to be careful with that image for myself. Anyway, let's go on to Leo. Now for Leos, I see this exalted Jupiter in the 12th house. And I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie. I never read the book, but I certainly did see the movie as a kid. It was like Hallmark or something. It was The Secret Garden. And I think they've made a redo of it from Disney or something at this point. But I remember the Hallmark version when I was a kid. And I remember this young girl and I think a young boy who was in a wheelchair. I'm vaguely remembering the storyline. And they find this secret garden. And the secret garden is a place of wonder, but primarily it's a private secret place that a lot of healing takes place in. The young girl had lost her family somehow. And I believe that the young boy was dealing with some kind of disease or sickness. And so this secret place of healing and nourishment became a very magical centerpiece of this story. And that's kind of that. I think that's why the image came to my mind when I was thinking about Leos. What a profound opportunity for healing to have an exalted Jupiter, the great goddess, in your 12th house. Another image that comes to my mind right now as I'm talking is like a rehab center. Someone hits rock bottom and they go to a place where they're loved, they're cared for, they get to get back up on their feet again, and they get to turn a shitty situation maybe into a better one. So again, I don't want anyone to take any of that literally, but if you are a Leo and you're just ready for a little bit of private, secret wonderment, healing, restoring, restoration, I think that this is a year that a private or secret dimension of life might be there that holds a lot of healing power for you. All right. So again, work with these images, work off from them too, play with them. But let's go on to Virgo. So for Virgo, we have Jupiter in Cancer in the 11th house. And the image that came to my mind was this, it was like a cheerful village. And it wasn't like in my mind, it was kind of like timeless, but it felt like it was probably like an ancient village where, people were living in more like the house. It wasn't like modern housing, it was like more like huts and things like that. So, but I think the point is, here's exalted Jupiter in a house of community and friendship and allies. And this house is a karma house in Indian astrology, which means it's part of how we define and pursue happiness. Now, this happiness is joined to the social and civic dimensions of life and where we find joyful connection in that civic and social arena, and where we find benefactors and allies, people who help us with our aspirations and dreams. So for Virgos, I see something like a cheerful village with friendly people who you feel connected to and who are excited to help, excited to lend something positive to your life. So work with that image, work off from that image. And how could that be? How could any of those images also be a part of the work of the year? That's part of it too. We have to create some of these things. So for Libra, I'm looking forward, and the image that comes to my mind is I saw this image of a ceremony taking place. I have no idea what kind or what people or anything. It was just like a ceremony that I saw taking place in my head. And it was like a woman, like a young woman who was ready to ascend to her role as something like the chieftain. But what would the appropriate word be? Chieftain is like a masculine, right? So like the chiefess, is that how you say? I don't know. The leader, the matriarch of her community, of her village, of her, her locale, something like that. It was a woman who was ready to take on a mantle of greater responsibility, greater importance, a greater gravitas. And she was young, but not so young as to not be ready for it. So that was the image that came to my mind. I think of this here as a place of leadership, the place associated with the work environment or your vocation, but also your connection to the world. And I wonder how this very feminine, nurturing, healing, emotionally brilliant Jupiter in Cancer may be leading the way with respect to your destiny in that workplace, but also in the world. How are these themes of the goddess sort of leading your way, or maybe embodying themselves in you and the role that you play in the world? Interesting to look at it from that perspective. Now, in the sign of Scorpio, Jupiter goes into the 9th house. And in this one, I saw like a wise woman, but I'm thinking like crone. It was like it was kind of like the hut at the edge of the village character. This is a woman that I saw that was like sage, witch, wise woman, lives in the forest apart from the daily life, kind of a hermit or hermitess, whatever, but wise and like magical. Maybe a kind of a sorceress, but like good vibes, So I saw this like kind of this, and the idea of it being from beyond was important because she wasn't like, either she was like, living out in the woods somewhere, people knew of her, but like didn't see her all the time, or maybe she was from a different country or from afar, or like, maybe she was, of a different, like from a different race or religion or something. And there's like a mystique surrounding her otherness in the image that I had. Now, that's interesting because the ninth house is associated with foreign places, pilgrimages, places that take us abroad, but also mystical things, otherworldly things. And so the great goddess as teacher in this house reminds me a little bit of like Amma, the hugging saint, if you know her, like a kind of like a magical mystical guru or something. But anyway, this could be very healing for Scorpios, who are often, you know, some of our more fearless and fierce and deep and probing people. And so there may be like a gentle softening of some of your edges and intensity that helps you. Doesn't make you soft in the sense of not being your vigilant sort of protector or warrior self, but like softens some edges or some paranoia or some level of insecurity or distrust or something like that. Anyway, work with that image though as Jupiter enters the ninth place of higher wisdom, beliefs, education, teachers. All right, let's move along to Sagittarius. So the image that came up for me with Sagittarius as I sat with it was it was like a story. I saw someone with a wound, and the wound was kind of like on their side or kind of like on their stomach. It was like a cut, you know. And then I saw a character like running out into the woods to look for, you know, the right herb. And this is like, again, probably set a long time ago, but I thought it was really interesting that they had to go and find the right herb to dress the wound. And there was some sense of knowing exactly what was needed to deal with exactly the kind of wound that it was, as if there was a spiritual understanding, a psychological understanding of what kind of karmic affliction this was and exactly what would heal it. I think that's interesting because the eighth house really is a place where we explore karmic debts. And we, in our experience of the eighth house, is like a moksha house in Indian astrology, which means freedom from attachments and liberation from different kinds of bondage. I think that Jupiter in Cancer brings healing into this house of very specific things that we've been struggling with. It could be in our karmic bonds or contracts with other people. It could be in some other area of our life, but it's like bringing very specific medicines to heal very specific wounds that are part of our soul's karmic contracts with others. So that was the story I saw. Kind of interesting. Work with that. See what you come up with. I'll be curious to hear what you Sages experience. Now with Capricorn, I saw this image. I thought it was like perfect. Is the image of water. And it felt like it was like a time-lapse video in my head where it was like watching the cliffs along a seaside like gradually soften and weather and wear down and change their shape over long, long periods of time. Of course, Capricorns are Saturn ruled, very earthy, I think, very resourceful, very smart and realistic, practical, productive, no BS, good dark humor. I love my Caps like that. And like like I've got this. I can, you know, Capricorns are very aware. Like sometimes it's like almost cynical, but they're very aware of the dark side of material nature. And they don't reject material nature. They're very embracing of it. But there can be like a hardness. And the natural binary opposite of the moon in Cancer is about the softness, the sweetness, the tenderness, the attachment, the vulnerability, the emotional intelligence. I think for Caps, there's the potential of great softening, great deepening of emotional sensitivities and connections with Jupiter in Cancer. It could be a welcome kind of wearing down of rough edges. So that was what I saw with that one in the house of relationships for Capricorns. All right, let's go forward to Aquarius. In Aquarius, this was a really interesting one. So I saw the face of like a chef drenched in sweat and like hot and working really hard near the fires of a kitchen. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Jupiter in Cancer loves to care for people, loves to nurture people. It truly is like a great hostess or a great host, a great a steward for other people. Let me give you a good experience. I think of Jupiter in Cancer like a warm B&B host or something. You know, the beds are turned down. You know, there's like good food. There's tea set out if you want some. And so I saw the sixth house is this place of great work and labor and sacrifice. And here I saw someone preparing food with such care to make other people feel welcome and good and safe and happy and nourished, but working like over the hot flames and like pouring this love into the food. So the idea of emotional sacrifice, pouring oneself, one's heart and one's soul into things that you care for, into things that you cook, into things that you make. This came up for me with Jupiter in the 6th. So take that and play with that image. But I think the themes of work, labor, sacrifice with an aura of healing and nurturance come to mind for me for Aquarians. And for Pisces, the image I saw in the 5th house, a place so connected to creativity, joy, spontaneous creative expression, was a Renaissance festival. A Renaissance festival image to me was perfect because when I've gone to Renaissance festivals, there's like performers blowing fire out of their mouth. There's maybe people walking on stilts. There's all sorts of artisans selling food that they've made, or like really beautiful artwork that they've made, or even people who, like almost like blacksmiths who make things. And I just thought, yeah, this is just this beautiful blossoming of creative energy, and energy that's not just creative, but joyful and sort of overflowing emotional. Like to me, a Renaissance festival is sort of like an overflowing cup of creativity and like happiness and joy and merrymaking. And I think that's probably going to be quite welcome for Pisceans after getting Saturn out of your 1st house. So maybe a year in which the creative overflow and the joy connected to your very being are of central importance here. I mean, if a Renaissance festival isn't your thing, if that's like, oh my God, that's just wild and over the top, then maybe it's a jazz club where people are really enjoying each other and listening to great music and dancing. Think of something else that resembles happiness and creative fulfillment sort of overflowing. Those images come to my mind for the Pisces with Jupiter in the 5th. So anyway, I hope that this exercise was, I don't know, just a little unique, different way of approaching things. Tell me, tell me what you think. If you've got an image of your own that comes to mind, please add it into the comments section. I think that would be really fun to just see kind of what you guys come up with as well. After I sign off, there's an informational video about the Year 1 program. It's coming up soon. I hope to study with some of you. Remember, need-based tuition is there for you if you could use it. And also, don't forget all the speaker series, everything coming up. There's lots of good stuff here in the month of June to take advantage of. I will be back tomorrow to conclude the week by looking at the Mercury conjunction with Saturn that's happening over the weekend, Venus entering Taurus, getting into a square with Pluto. So we'll end the week with a little bit more forecasting of some upcoming transits. And then next week is just a very busy week, lots of stuff to cover. Yeah, look forward to that too. All right, that's it for now. I hope you're having a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm excited to tell you about our upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. It is our 1st-year course in Hellenistic astrology that begins at the end of June. June 22nd is our starting date. I'm going to take you over to the course page to tell you more about the program and what you will learn while you are in it. So here we go over to the Nightlight Astrology website. You can find this at nightlightastrology.com. Click on the courses tab, go to the 1st-year course. Now, this program is ideal for people who maybe have a little bit of background already in astrology. Maybe you've done some studying on your own independently, taken some courses or webinars and workshops, but you're looking to deepen your understanding of astrology. And maybe Hellenistic astrology in particular has been calling to you. I'll tell you more about what Hellenistic astrology is in a minute, but on the 1st-year course page, you're going to find everything that the course includes. I want to make the structure of the course clear first, and then at the end, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons that I think anyone might have for studying astrology, and you can see if you check any of those boxes. First of all, there are 30 classes on the year. It's just a little under a year-long program with 30 webinars. Every webinar is 2 to 3 hours long, including a lively Q&A and conversational section after we finished our lesson for the day. Each of those lessons I lead personally through live webinars, so you can attend those live. If you want to follow along at your own pace in your own time on your own schedule, you can always look at the recordings and take those in. And I'm going to show you what the class page looks like so you can see how you can interact with the course as uniquely and creatively as you want to. But you can either attend the live webinars or listen to the recordings or audio or video. In between major units of study within those 30 classes, we have separate classes outside of the 30 classes that are essentially tutoring sessions led by our staff, our course directors. We have 3 of them for our first year program, 3 tutors that help me guide every single class you're in and lead study sessions, and are also staffing an interactive group forum discussion where you can ask questions, look at charts, practice what you're learning with all of your classmates and with tutors there to help you. They'll always answer questions within a business day. So it's a really well-staffed, well-structured program. In between those major units of study and the breakout sessions, we also have guest speakers that come in throughout the year that you get free access to. The recordings are archived for you in your class folders. So you're getting people within our curriculum. And you're also getting to visit with some astrologers who are outside of the Nightlight School, but we really admire their work, and so we bring them in. You also have a ton of bonus material. With every lesson, we have recommended quizzes, study guides, optional reading. And that allows people who are really, really, intense, deep, like studious types to go as far as you want to with the material, while other people who are maybe, content to take things in at, just kind of taking in the classes, that's there for you too. So you can kind of go as deeply as you want to. The class, as the year goes on, goes through major units of study in ancient Hellenistic astrology. So if you're not familiar with ancient Hellenistic astrology, this is the earliest form of horoscopic astrology. This is where the astrology that you've probably learned today comes from originally. And that makes some of its features unique. Like, for example, ancient astrologers utilized whole sign houses. We study why they used whole sign houses, how they used them, and we study the why behind really everything: houses, signs, planets, aspects, dignities, essential and accidental dignities, delineation approaches. How do you read and predict within a natal chart? All of those theoretical areas of astrology, we not only learn how to do, but we learn the why behind it. And this is what I think people find most empowering about the course, is that ancient astrology really helps to give you the rationale for everything so that you have the insight available to go off script. What I mean by that is, like, let's say you're learning about a sign, Aries or Taurus or a Gemini, something like that. Ancient astrology won't just give you a list of the adjectives or keywords or descriptions of, say, a sign or a planet. It will give you an underlying philosophical explanation that then allows you to extrapolate from it the kinds of lists that you read in textbooks, which means you'll have an understanding of why everything on a list in a textbook is there in the first place. And you'll also have the insight and creativity available to add things to the list that are a part of your own unique intuition and contribution to astrology. And this is what ancient astrologers wanted students of astrology to learn: the why behind everything. So this is a class where, even though you're seeing things like planet signs, houses, dignities, aspects, and you're like, oh, I've already learned about those things. Not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology. I don't mean to sound condescending, but like, truly, most people's experience coming through this program is, wow, I had no idea all that I didn't know about the roots of everything that I've understood thus far about astrology. So it really is about digging into the philosophical core of why we do everything. And then you have greater intuitive and creative capacity as an astrological craftsman or craftswoman. So anyway, that's a brief explanation of why I think Hellenistic astrology is important. Not to mention that ancient astrology was really focused on our ability to accurately describe and predict things in the realm of karma, fate, and destiny, whereas modern astrology's hallmark and strength is psychological depth. And so when you put the two together in our program, which is why it's called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, I think you have something really special. So on that note, you can see everything that we cover here. So there's a video with some of our alumni you can watch. Everything is there on the page. Now, there are 5 reasons that I want to touch on briefly before I tell you about your payment options and need-based tuition. These are 5 reasons to study astrology that if you mark any of these boxes, especially if you mark several of them, then I think it's a good indication that you might be ideal for this program, might be an ideal fit. So the first one is if you find that astrology has become a part of your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly spiritual practice, it is a part of how you lead an inner life, then there is nothing more empowering than deepening your connection to that language, because that puts you more in the driver's seat. It's always good to have astrologers that you rely on, teachers that you listen to, get a little objective perspective, especially when you're looking at your own chart through a reading. But there's really nothing more empowering than learning to speak the language at a deeper level for yourself. And if that calls to you, if you want to understand things and be able to speak more confidently and clearly about this sacred language that you love, and this is a great reason to take a structured program. Number 2 is that you feel called to read charts for people. And look, not everyone who takes our programs is on a professional track, but we have 4 years worth of professional training programs at Nightlight that will prepare you to read professionally for others if that's the path that you're on. Maybe you don't even know if you're on that path. That's fine too. Many people take our programs just for the sake of their own personal enrichment, and again, to be kind of more in the driver's seat with respect to your astrological journey. You have more of an understanding. You can be more confident in reading symbols and experiencing transits with your own understanding that you've cultivated. But sometimes people want to read for other people. This will definitely set you up to do that. We have a certification track where you can take exams at the end of every year. They're optional. You don't have to if you're not on that level of interest. Number 3, you have done a lot of self-study. You've heard things from here and there, but you're looking to bring it all together. It is overwhelming to study astrology on your own. So if you want organization, structure, and coherence, what you're getting in this program is going on 15 years of training astrologers, 15 years of developing curriculum that has in mind the overwhelm that many people experience. And this program is structured year 1, year 2, year 3, however far you want to go with our curriculum, to give you an organized, structured, coherent way of understanding the history and language of astrology from both ancient times to modern times in all of the vastness that the field includes. And also, as we go, we want to give you the confidence that you are a part now of an astrological lineage. Astrology has always been practitioner-based. Coming through Nightlight, you are going to have the opportunity to feel aligned with a lineage. If you like my work, if you feel aligned with the way I speak the language, then this might be a good reason to come study with us. Now, if you're seeking the why behind things, if you're like, yeah, that's interesting, I get it, I understand, but why? Why signs? What's the difference between a sign and a house? Why do they ever come up with a sign and a house? What's the distinction philosophically? Why does Mars represent this? Why does Mars in this sign represent that? If you are someone who feels empowered by understanding the why behind things, you are going to love this program, because that's how I am as a teacher. That's how I am as a person. And that's what this program is really all about. Number 5, you are looking for astrological community. Look, I think Nightlight is unique in terms of the kind of warmth, acceptance, safety, and inclusiveness that our community includes intellectually, spiritually. We really pride ourselves on being a peaceful kind of family. I'm a Cancer, right? So it's kind of a family-oriented environment. So anyway, I will end it there. If you check any of those boxes, you may want to consider studying with us. Now, I'm going to take you over to 2 things. I want to show you the dashboard. So here is the Thinkific page. You're going to join this. And on your dashboard, you're going to find any courses that you've enrolled in at Nightlight. And there are many, so you may end up in being involved in multiple courses. And you'll find that they're all there on your dashboard. Click on one of them and it will take you in. You're going to find that on the left-hand side, there's orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar, all the technical stuff you need to know when you join the course. And then you're going to find that when you go through the lessons, that the lesson includes the video, the audio, the slides, the transcripts, the Q&A box text if you couldn't make it live and see what people were talking about, flashcards, homework, a bonus PDF with all sorts of additional recommended reading, bonus videos, additional video links for bonus material. So every single time that you want to visit something within the course, everything is nicely organized. So you can see here, I'm going to pause this before it starts going, but you can embed the video right there. It's embedded and you can watch it. And then if you wanted to, you could also, right here, you could also download the video and watch it on your own device. And that's same for the audio as well. And then As you go, you'll see all of the lessons are laid out. The study sessions are also recorded if you can't make those live. So everything is nicely arranged on the website for you. And that makes it a course that if you wanted to take 3 years to accomplish, you could take 3 years to accomplish. If you want to take it for the sake of getting certified, you have the full year plus an additional year to take the exam. So 2 years total that we give people if you're on a professional track. But most people complete the program in a year. And a lot of people, over 50% of our students go on to our year 2 and then our year 3 and horary programs as well. Now, final thing I'm going to show you is right here. You're going to find here is the enrollment options at the bottom of the first year course page. Again, this is at nightlightastrology.com, and you're going to click on the first year course, go to the bottom. The early bird payment saves you several $100s off the cost of the course. That's available till May 15th. Early bird installment plan saves you on the installment plan, regular cost of the course. That's also only available until May 15th. And then need-based tuition. All of our programs include a need-based option where we give you a sliding scale and we say, you pick your monthly tuition number within this sliding scale, which is greatly reduced off the normal tuition price. That is for people who are on a fixed or limited income, receiving disabilities, single mom, whatever the case might be. We want to make sure that nobody's priced out of studying astrology. So you don't have to feel any shame. If that is you, if you need help, if you want to take this, but you need to make it work within a tight budget, we get it. Times are tough right now. We don't think people should be priced out of studying a sacred subject like astrology. So we've been offering need-based pricing for 15 years. Nightlight is a donation-based school. It started that way. We have a sliding scale, so it's kind of like donation. You get to choose your rate anyhow. So if that's something that will help you, please use it. Thank you for listening to this. I hope it gave you a really deep and comprehensive introduction to what the course is all about and why you might find it exciting to come study with us starting at the end of June. So any questions you have about the program as you're visiting the course, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. We'll be glad to talk about anything that you have questions about. We are here and we have a wonderful staff of people at Nightlight who will be a part of your learning experience and are all glad to help you. All right, that's it. We'll see you again later. Bye.